Hi, Peter. Thanks for the opportunity to review your business aspect website and digital strategy at a high level. I'll go through a little bit to do with your general usability and position of how your site sits today. I'll have a look at some different stats related to search, related to social, related to content, some technical aspects, load speeds, mobile versus desktop, etc., and a bit of strategy in Google, and then move into a little bit of a comparison between some of your competitors, but then also an example of how we can structure the site a little bit to improve your profile of the partners and consultants within the business. So let's get into it. What I think, and the discussion that I had with you on the phone around your the partner profiles, majority of your work comes from word of mouth, some inquiry online, but not a lot, and your relationship, your tight knit relationship with referrals through the Data3 business and the connections with all that, which is brilliant. And that is really a very common thing, as you would know, with large consulting firms. It very much is around word of mouth. So the business aspect website is really just acting as a reference buffer for the type of work you guys are involved in, a reference point to look up your partners in addition to your LinkedIn profiles, etc. So key strategies for you are, LinkedIn in socials, which you are currently pursuing pretty heavily, which is great, and I'll touch on that a little bit. Twitter in a sort of just a support level, and to be honest, I don't know about Twitter in this space. I don't know, whether it's really a B2B medium, although it may be working for you, and great if it is, especially if you kind of maybe more of a global focus rather than just local. But anyway, I'll get into a little bit about the site now. Obviously, statistically, high-level consulting firms and B2B businesses, your people pages are, aside from your homepage, your people pages are your second most visited pages. So that's a really important part to note around the site. And look, your site is not bad. It's got a lot of good things going for it, and you've worked through your content over. There's a lot of supporting content, especially with your case studies, for example, and your industry experience content, and your media profiles is really, really good. Your perspectives and white papers and supporting material is also really good, albeit not necessarily all connected and joined together in the best way it probably could be. So I really like the industry experience, and this is very common with combining, your key industry verticals, and then diving into you've got your case studies, blockchain, your examples of articles, for example, inside that to drill down further. So that's really good. I like that connection. From a design perspective, a lot of sites are moving away from a lot of sort of generic about content. And you'll see that in your competitors' sites now. They're moving more into short, sharp snippets of content, but using case studies and reference material and white papers as highlights within the pages, and articles, expertise articles being those key people of influence for each of those sectors, and really heroing that within the page rather than long screeds of content. So, for example, panels, federal government. So you'd use a federal government logo and just go quick, bang, bang, bang. Like use visual clues as well as text in the page. This 2 columns of content is also fading away from the web experience these days, because we're in this responsive design scenario. So, for example, how is this responding to iPads and templates. Well, your site isn't at the moment, which is a shame, because you are really isolating a bunch of users, probably about 20 to 30% of your users in a B2B aspect. If you were in doing more social media and getting traffic from Facebook, for example, or maybe LinkedIn on mobile, then you would be getting a lot more traffic from your mobile. I don't have your Google Analytics here, but it would be upwards of 40 to 60% if you are really driving content through your LinkedIn profile to articles within your site. So, where am I going? So, you've got your industry pages, great. Services as well. You're probably in the zone of having to rethink how these work. And if you are rethinking the positioning of these a little bit, digital and technology is probably a little bit too broad. You need to be thinking about, specific, like cybersecurity, just do a page on cybersecurity. Don't call it cybersecurity and risk. So do cybersecurity, bang, content related to that. Google loves specific pages around that. And then link in with risk assessments, government risk assessments, those sort of very specific content related to each page. Be careful about spreading it too broadly. Your people pages are the leadership team. Let's go and have a look at the leadership team. Look, this is the navigation into this is really good. And the profile's great, images are good, albeit I think there's a bit of a missed opportunity here to link in content from David into this page, and you'll see on an example of that a little bit later. Great to have his profile, but really you got to build this with real world examples of digital content, videos. Here's a white paper written by David. Here's XYZ written by David. Get those connections into that. I really like your 2 minutes with. That's great. Albeit some of the dates are a bit dated now. Maybe update some of those dates if you can to get them to more recent. You don't really want to be seeing, 20. So you don't really want to be seeing 2-year-old, 3-year-old in a few months' time content there. You want that to be fairly fresh. But again, this is nice to get a nice feel, but maybe this could be integrated into the actual profile page as a little bit of softness and personality around that, and then link in your content that's going to be meaningful. So that's it about the page. Yeah, and this is called good too. I understand you're in Bright Labs CMS. I'm familiar with Bright Labs, and from a technical perspective, your site is actually loading quite fast. It's loading in under 4.6 seconds in this speed test. Nothing jumping out of the page there that's too crazy. You could possibly shrink down some of your profile, your slider banner shots on the homepage, which is causing a little bit of speed. But look, you're not doing too badly there. Bright Labs CMS is a cloud-hosted solution, but it doesn't. So you need to move to a template that responds to mobile. As an example, here's one of your competitors, MOQ Digital, moving into mobile, instant change to mobile menus and content, which is what everyone's after these days. Accenture would be the same, you would think. Yeah, so see how we've got a nice solid, need to accept the cookies. But yeah, you can see how it's a nice solid set of very easily scrollable content. So that's where we're looking for that. Now, let's go back to tracking positions. So at a technical level, the site audits not too bad, 78%. There are some errors, technical errors around duplicate content, and so your SEO profile could be improved with making sure your headings are all unique. And so there's some technical issues around the health of the site in that. And so when you're thinking about reworking that, there's, like I said, about specific content for each page around specific services and verticals. You need to be producing content around that that's unique on each of those pages. Your tracking position of, look, this doesn't have a lot of historical data in it because of the no timing. Normally we would run this type of report for several weeks, and you would see how you rack up against Accenture, your MOQ Digital and Deloitte, and against certain keywords. So here's ICT strategy. You are currently ranked 9th on a local search level for that, versus MOQ Digital, which is 91. So Deloitte not ranking at all for that, but for ICT Digital Transformation Strategy, you're 45 and Deloitte is 12. So normally we would run this type of report for a couple of weeks and get some solid data. It's giving you a visibility trend of 0.67% for the keywords that I've taken from your different services pages, versus Deloitte, which has a visibility, as you'd imagine, in that space, that's 7.95%. So yeah, this is a SEO, organic ranking tracking. So if you're really thinking about a redesign, you would want to start to really nut this out and go, well, okay, we're ranking here for this particular phrase. Let's really work this up. I know in a professional services level, this isn't such a big deal, because the higher you rank for some of these phrases, you will attract an audience and inquiry from audience that you don't necessarily want. For example, smaller businesses that just don't have the budget for your type of services. So it's a trade-off, but there might be very specific phrases that you would like to rank for, and this is where this report is actually really quite powerful. So let's jump now into some of your social media stuff, and then I'll go back to some Google work. So your social media profile is in LinkedIn is quite good and quite solid. I would just, let's go back. So this is your business page, as you would know. So, last posted a week ago, you've got, a good volume of followers. 2 months ago, you may be posting once a month here, and that might be part of your overall strategy. That's great. Now, what should you be posting? So there's no videos as such yet. Perhaps it could be worth doing some white paper releases here. So you've got that sort of content going on. What is really important is, everything's about people. Social networks, it's still about people. So, for example, if I look on Dave's profile page, again, it's well structured, all good. His activity, if I look at his activity, he's doing a little bit of sharing and commenting and liking, which is brilliant. Again, so he's active on the network, but there should be some posts, which is great. Listening to blah, so that was a month ago. Second video is a GAT video, which is great, and that's 3 months ago. So I've been trying to get into a habit of releasing something weekly that is maybe a little bit more meaty than just a share. So you could participate in LinkedIn articles, but in our experience, we haven't seen a lot of cut through with articles published directly in LinkedIn. But there is still a lot to be said for individual posts, text and video in LinkedIn to get that traffic, especially backing up Do's managing partner. He will already have a lot of visibility. He could actually really leverage that. And then your other team members can share that content as well. So there's a lot to be said for using content, media releases, perspectives and publications on your site. So here's your latest. This should be shared on each of your staff's LinkedIn profile pages. Really boost that visibility of this content. So a little bit of comment, structure, paste the link, get it shared within that social environment will really broaden the reach of each of these articles, which is what you're after. Otherwise, it may not be even worth publishing some of those articles. You need to get that reach in there. Your YouTube profile is a start, and you've got 3 videos, albeit love the case study. Do more of case studies and video, and do that. Just do that, if nothing else. And that's 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 2 years ago. So we need some fresh video content, and get that into your channel and start to grow that over time. Get that reach there as well. You would also upload those videos into natively into LinkedIn as well. If you have a look at my profile, you'll see how I do that across the different platforms. Okay, let's go to. I've already looked at your speed flow, which is good, and this is really quite interesting. This is Google's page speed insights. You get a very good ranking for desktop, which is great. Hats off to Bright Labs for actually getting that type of result. That can be quite difficult to get, albeit you're not mobile friendly yet, but this is assessing mobile speed, and you're getting quite a high rank here as well, which is great, but it's not a mobile site. So you need to focus on your usability of your mobile versus just load speed. So that's something to definitely address. People are designing for mobile phones first now rather than desktop. So let's have a look at your Google search and how you're appearing there. When I search just for business aspect, because this is a sort of more generic phrase, not necessarily a business name, it's not recognizing your Google profile here, which is not great. It'd be great if that could bring it in. As soon as I searched for Business Aspect Brisbane, it brought in your Google My Business profile, which is great, albeit you don't have any reviews here. And again, you're a high-level consulting firm. You may not want to chase reviews. However, every review is worth it, or testimonial is worth it. So because if you get a bad one, then the bad one will be front and center every time. So this is why you can minimize your risk with your business profile here, is to chase some reviews in Google, 5 to 10 of them in here, all positive, all 5-star reviews from like-minded clients that will then, if any negative stuff appears, then it'll be drowned out by the positive reviews. So that is a worthwhile strategy. I have done a video on how to generate the link to make that happen. I'll send you that in another email, Peter. So on the map, there's your Google business profile. That's really good, all good. Now, having a look at some of your deeper search. So this is where as an example, I did ICT strategy for education search, and your white paper case study was here. Brilliant. Page 1. This is the benefit of producing very specific content, and you can certainly over time keep generating content. Just make it fresh, nice solid bits of specific content, and make it real, incorporate video. You need to keep people on the page for a longer time now, so this is where video can come into play. But this is really good. I'll take a quick look now at how some of your competitors are generating content and the style of content. I mentioned it earlier about these larger About Us pages where you do blah 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 blah. Content now is moving towards more an active style of reinforcement of your expertise and knowledge through articles and trending topics and video, for example, audio, podcast, all that sort of stuff, fresh content, and calls to action within the content. So this is, Accenture's homepage. So these guys are really, driving that. They would have a massive media department. So for a small organisation, can be very difficult to do. One of our clients is GT Law, large law firm out of Sydney. They have a media team, a marketing team of about 5 that are generating lots of content. They've almost moved to be a newsroom type of style of thing to cut through, and it's really working for them. And it's the same with these guys. Here's an example. Expertise. Here's our expertise in action. Examples of brands they're working for, how they're doing digital transformation. A career snippet. Come innovate with us. It's really the language is really engaging. It's making IT content and direction and innovation really on the front foot and funky, sexy, if you want to call it that. But yeah, so here's a great example of a call to action. Subscribe, stay in the know with our newsletter. Subscribe, big block. Now on your site, you have this here: build and trust, reading the client story, but the more is hidden. I can't even click here to go through to actually, but I have to click over here. But there's no real, in the content, there's no real engaging component to go, hey, connect with us here, talk to a consultant, book David for a consult, speak to a partner. Any of those sort of real direct action things are absolutely critical in a standard page. These guys get closer to that, and you can see, let's have a look at their homepage. Their industries, their focus is really tight. Their insights, they're reinforcing the case studies. It's simple, but engaging. See these big, short, sharp snippets of content that you can dive deeper into, testimonials in the page to reinforce that trust. So you've got a whole, all the content as you scroll down the page is reinforcing these guys' expertise in their space. As an example of, these guys aren't a competitor of yours, they're a client of ours. They do high-level consulting, very similar to you guys, but in the energy market. So they're doing government, private sector, energy economics consulting. And just to give you an idea, we did this site. This site is a couple of years old now, but you can get an idea of where I'm thinking around connecting people, your team, in with your content. So, for example, here's the people. Click through. I see, headshots of the major partners. I'm seeing client logos, so I'm getting a reinforcement of the type of people that these guys work for. And then when I click into a partner, there's a call to action. Contact Jim. View his LinkedIn profile, which you have already in there. It's got Jim's industries: gas, regulatory governance, consumers, electricity, water. He's a bit across. He's an executive director, so he covers it all. Here's profile, headshot, bit of history. Send Jim a direct message. Jim's clients, Jim's reports. So see how I'm connecting every bit of content into back to the people. So this is where it really reinforces your profile within the sector or your partner profiles within the sector, wraps it all up into one easy sellable bite-sized page that you can use, right across the your marketing material, if you like. So yeah, you're actually really close with your content, but it can be bound together a little bit more. So yeah, that's my review. Hope you liked it. Please don't hesitate to reach out in the new year if you'd like us to do a redevelopment of your site, a redesign, or just improving how your content structure works. And yeah, have a great Christmas, and I'll catch up in the new year. Cheers.